So, a lot of people have always asked about thread, and this video isn't about what we have new, but about all of the thread that we carry currently here in the shop. So, thread is a lot of fun. There's so many things you can do with thread, either handwork, which I don't do, but tons of work you can do with your serger and with your sewing machine. But not every thread's created equal, and not every thread can do everything. Some threads are definitely more specific for specific techniques and different looks. So let's take a look at the different threads that we currently carry in the store. And this is definitely just a fraction of the threads that are out there in the sewing industry. Okay, so we're going to start with one of our most popular threads. So this is a Mettler thread. This is one of the 3 or 4 brands that we carry. So this is a Mettler silk finish cotton. The silk finish just means it doesn't have a dull, lifeless finish. It has a slight sheen. Doesn't mean it's shiny like embroidery thread. So this is your everyday sewing cotton thread. You can see we have it on 2 different size spools, and this is great for sewing. You can quilt with it. You can do a little embroidery with it, but not recommended for serging. So we have it on our 164 yard spools and 547 yard spools. But again, 100% cotton, so this is microwave safe. So on the flip side of this is the Mettler Metrocene. Same company, different thread. Looking at them side by side, the thread pretty much looks identical, except this is 100% polyester. So this is what Mettler considers their dual duty, all-purpose style thread. It's great for sewing. You can quilt with it, not as popular. You can embroider with it, but not as recommended. But it does work on the serger. Not the best serger thread in the world, because as you can see, it is on smaller cones. And it's a little bit more than what you would need on a serger. But this is, again, your everyday sewing thread. We only have it on the smaller spools, and this is 165 yard spools. But again, it looks almost identical to the Mettler silk finished cotton thread. So currently, right above the Mettler silk finished cotton thread is a new line of thread. Well, it's a new type of thread, and it's new from Mettler. So this is, they call it Extreme Pro. This is UV protected, heavy duty exterior thread. So it's quite thick, but not too thick for your everyday sewing machine. But this is for your outdoor heavy duty use. We only have it in a few colors. There aren't tons of colors to choose from, but your primary everyday colors for sure. So one thing I forgot to mention is the 2 threads that we've talked about so far. You will just use your regular sewing machine needle, regular size, so anywhere between the 75 to a 90. Usually you don't need anything much larger than that. This, you may want to use a little bit larger needle, so we're going to be recommending like a size 90 needle. And it could be a jeans 90 needle, for instance. But this is perfect exterior thread, and it's new by Mettler, and this is the Extreme Pro. And this has 400 meters. So another Mettler thread that we carry is Ceracore. This is a 100% polyester serger and long arm thread. Honestly, I usually don't recommend this for long arming, but for the serger, it is wonderful. So they come on nice large spools, and there's 2,500 meters on this spool. This is a 2-ply 50 weight thread, and it comes in 50 different colors. This is excellent for your serger, but they also say long arm quilting and general quilting, but I also do not recommend this for sewing. This just doesn't work that well in the sewing machine, believe it or not. But sergers is the reason why we carry this Mettler Ceracore, and it's an excellent thread for just that. Now, the other thread that we carry that falls in that Mettler Aman family is Isacord. And as you can see, we have every color of Isacord. There are over 400 different colors. And so this is a 100% polyester thread. It has 1,000 meters, I do believe. Yeah, 1,000 meters on the spool. This is a high sheen, very strong embroidery thread. So this is what we've embroidered for embroidered with for many, many years. This is one of the best embroidery threads out there, but we also quilt with it. It also works nicely in our serger. But this thread will not bleed. It will not bleach out. Very strong, and there is no dye lot. So this same color from 10 years ago is the exact same color. It does not change. This is something that we do see with other brands. I'm not going to mention any, but we've gotten some, and from year to year, the colors have changed, even though it's the same color number. But this is what we use for all of our embroidery projects. The only time you would not want to use this for embroidery is if you are embroidering something that you're going to want to iron on, or that's going to go in the microwave. But otherwise, this is perfect thread for embroidery. So there's one last thread that kind of falls in the Aman Metler group, and this is fairly new for us. Well, new as in from last year. So this is the Perfect Quilting Thread by OESD and Metler. So they kind of teamed up, and I think even Amanda Murphy played a role in designing this thread. This is amazing thread. This is one of our most favorite threads. This is thread that we use to piece our quilts with and to quilt our quilts with. So there are 100 spools, or I'm sorry, 100 different colors. We're waiting on the 50 newest colors, but we have 50 of the current colors. They do come on nice large spools, which are 3,500 meters. And we have absolutely loved this thread. It's a polyester core wrapped in cotton. And it's a 50 weight, but it's on the thinner side, which is perfect for piecing, and it quilts beautifully. I've used it on the long arms. I've used it on the sewing machines, in quilting in the hoop, free motion quilting, decorative stitch quilting. I've used it for every aspect of it and absolutely love it. And so it does come on smaller spools. Let's take a quick look. And we do have many different kits that do have variations of greens, purples, grays, tans. So you do have them in the smaller spools, but we did opt for the larger spool display because we have a lot of long arm customers and we want a lot of thread in one color. So that is the Perfect Quilting Thread by Metler and OESD. Okay, now let's switch brands. This is Invisifil by Wonderfil. This is our thinnest thread. Now this is a 100 weight thread, so super, super fine. I mean, we're talking like as thin as your hair fine. And this is amazing thread. Oops, no room for it. So it's a 100 weight thread, so we're using a smaller needle. But this thread is excellent for using when you want to replace using monofilament thread, which in my opinion is a pain in the neck, but we do carry the Molly Poly Invisifil. I'm sorry, Molly Poly monofilament thread. But so this is Invisifil. It comes in many different colors. They're small spools, but there's a lot of thread on there because it's so thin. So we use Molly Poly in conjunction with Decobob. So Decobob is another one of our most favorite threads by Wonderfil. So this is a 80 weight thread. This is what we pretty much solely use in our embroidery bobbin. So we're primarily only using the white. We do have them on larger spools, but this is 80 weight thread. It's a cottonized thread. So both of these threads are pretty much made the same way. It's just this one's 80 weight and this one's a 100 weight. So much thinner, but this is still very thin. So it's a cottonized thread. So Wonderfil explains it as it's a polyester thread that is designed to react like a cotton thread, which it does. So it has a texture to it, which is why the machines like it, but it's nice and thin. We couldn't have cotton thread be this thin and be this strong. So what Wonderfil recommends, they recommend using this on the top. I'm sorry, using this on the bobbin and using this on the top when you are working with Invisifil. However, I've definitely worked with Invisifil on the top and the bobbin. Same for the Decobob. But when we are embroidering, I use Decobob on the bobbin, and that's what I recommend. And then we'll use Isocord on the top. But I love both Invisifil and Decobob for stitching my binding on, because I have a number of different colors to choose from, but you don't need many more than this, because that red will work with most pinks, most burgundies, anything in that family, because they are so thin. But that's why I like using this to put on my binding once I do my decorative stitch, because it kind of blends in with the fibers of the fabric, especially the Invisifil. So more Wonderfil thread that we have is Accent and Glamour. So this is a new thread display for us. So Accent and Glamour are very similar threads, except Accent, so they're both 12-weight rayon threads, and the Accent is all of our solid rayon threads. So they come in a solid, but they do have a number of variegated threads, which are absolutely gorgeous when they're stitched out. You can see some of the Christmas stitching here, which was done on the sewing machine. So this is a 12-weight thread, so we need to make sure we're using a big needle. We're going to be using a Top Stitch 100 needle. A Top Stitch because we have a nice big 2mm opening eyelet, so this thicker thread can feed through it. Now, if you're working with it on the serger, which you can see here, nice big thick Glamour thread, the serger sails through it like it's absolutely nothing. The serger doesn't really care about the threads. It's very easy working with this thick thread on the serger. But the Accent thread is solid 12-weight rayon. Then there are some variegated, but when we get to the Glamour is also a 12-weight rayon, except it has a strand of metallic ran through it, which gives it that shimmery sheen, which you should be able to see here, which is absolutely stunning. Love it. And so we got this for our sergers, but our wonderful Tammy, who works with us, she did some embroidery samples, which I just haven't got around to doing. So here is a Glamour sample done in the embroidery, no problem. So all she did was she used a Top Stitch 100, she dropped the tension, reduced the speed, and used Deco Bob on the bobbin. But you can also see here, she did the same thing, but using Glamour and Accent. And that candle wicking is perfect. And she had no problems, but the same thing. Larger needle, drop that tension, and slow down the machine. So Wonderfil, we do use a lot of. So the next Wonderfil product we have is spaghetti. So spaghetti we primarily got for the serger, but people have definitely been sewing with it. So this is a 12-weight cotton thread. We have it in 60 colors on 100-meter spools. And so we've done a lot of decorative work with this using our serger. We do have some packs of the larger spools. And so this, again, we're using a nice big Top Stitch 100 needle because it is a bigger thread if we're using this on our sewing machine. But otherwise, in the serger, upper and lower looper, it doesn't really care. So here's another Wonderfil thread product. So we don't have a thread display on this particular thread, but we do have them in kits. So this is the Dazzle by Wonderfil. So this is a much thicker thread. This is a 8-weight 6-ply rayon thread with the strand of metallic. It is stunning. So this cannot go through your needle of your sewing machine, but this can go through the loopers of your serger. But also what's really cool is you can use, if you have a Bernina, you can use your red bobbin case and use this for bobbin work. So this is a beautiful, beautiful thread. It's nice and thick. So in this kit, it's 30 spools. There's 50 yards or 46 meters per spool, and you can see all of the different colors. And we have a number of these displays. Wonderfil is known for their specialty thread, and they've got so much thread. Our store is not big enough to house it all, but believe me, if I can find a space, I will get more. But this is beautiful, beautiful thread. So some of our newest thread for this year is Kingstar. So Kingstar is known for being the #1 metallic thread. So you see they come on nice big spools. So it's 1,000-meter spools, and we've got it in many, many colors. Some beautiful colors down there in the greens and blues and turquoise. And so this thread is actually coated in rice paper, which is pretty cool. But this thread is metallic thread. However, you treat it like regular old embroidery thread if you use it in your embroidery machine. I have heard nothing but amazing things when it comes to this thread. They say you don't have to do anything special. It's not like your typical metallic thread. So this is something that's worth giving it a try. So another brand that we have and that we've carried for many years, that's loved by many, is the Aurifil thread. So we have Aurifil in both 50 and 40 weight. So the 40 weight we primarily use when we need a thicker sewing thread or like just a heavier sewing thread than the 40 weight Aurifil, but both of them are on the thinner side. But the green capped ones are 40 weight, which is what we primarily use for quilting. And then the orange capped is what most people use for piecing. But to be perfectly honest, we have been using the Perfect Quilting Thread by OESD a lot more frequently because it's a little bit stronger and a little less linty than the Aurifil 50 weight. But this is the main staple for piecing your quilt. 100% cotton, 50 weight Aurifil. And these are 1,421 yard spools. So they're decent sized spools. So more Wonderfil thread. So remember, Wonderfil has a lot of specialty threads. So this one is Rinse and Gone. This is a water-soluble thread. This is excellent for when you want to baste something but don't want to have to rip out that basting. This will wash away. And perfect, like they're mentioning positioning zippers and pockets, ease stitching, and any temporary placement because it rinses away at room temperature. We also have a iron infused thread by Wonderfil. So this is perfect for applique, lining up corners, matching up patterns, bindings, and zippers, because what you do is you'd feed it through in your bobbin typically, and it will fuse when you hit with the iron. But one thing, when we do work with iron infused or any type of iron away or iron or adhesive thread, is because when we hit with the iron, the thread does turn to glue and dissolve. But with a lot of adhesives, if you hit it with the iron too long, the adhesive has a tendency to dissolve and go away. So when we do use our iron infused thread, we still like to use a regular thread in there as well. And this will help and ensure that our stitches do stay in place, even after it's been fused. All right, that was a quick overview of the threads that we carry currently in the store. I am sure I missed some because there are so many different threads and they're scattered all over the store. So again, if you have any questions about the threads that we carry, feel free to come in, give us a call, and we'll be happy to answer any questions about all the wonderful threads that we carry by all the great brands that we've got. All right, have a good one.